Hello students, let's read the problem. And it says, Mr. Smith surveyed his students over the number of hours they spend on their cell phone during social media each day. The results are shown in the dot plot below. What is the mean absolute deviation for this data? Okay, so we're looking for the mean absolute deviation, right? And I know what you're thinking. Miss, but I don't see numbers, right? Like what numbers am I going to use for the mean absolute deviation? Well, the dot plot has some information for us, right? So the first thing we need to do is actually write down our data, write down our numbers, right? So those dots that you see basically means that the number of hours, which is 1 hour, was chosen twice. So you need to write it down twice. And then we have how many hours? 2 hours, then 3 hours. Now notice how 4 hours also has how many? 2 dots. Therefore, I need to write it down twice. There's no dot for 5, so we don't write it down. And there's 1 dot for 6. So those are the numbers that you will be using to find the mean absolute deviation. Does that make sense? All right, so let's start. First of all, we're gonna do step 1, right? Anybody remember step 1? What do we do? And in step 1, we basically gonna find the average, right? Because he said we're gonna find the mean, right? And another word for mean is average. A lot of the students prefer to say average, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add up all the numbers that I found, and then I'm gonna divide it. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's 7 numbers given to me. So I will divide by 7. So let's start with the first one. So I'm gonna have 1. Every number that I have up there needs to be written down. Even the 4, I need to write it down twice. Okay? You see that? I need to write down all of the numbers twice. And then I'm going to divide by 7. Okay? So I need to get an answer for all the numbers, and that will give me a 21. And then I still need to divide by 7, right? So 21 was just the answer for the numbers on the numerator. What's 21 divided by 7? It's 3. Very good. So my average for the first part of the data, it's 3. So what is it that I'm going to do next? We are doing step 2, right? Anybody remembers what to do in step 2? Anyone? No? Okay, so in step 2, basically, we are going to find the difference between my data and the average that I found in step 1. Okay, so basically, I am going to go to step 1 and I'm going to say I need to find the difference, right? Which means subtracting. And it is possible that in some cases I get a negative number, but the fact that I have these symbols here, which means absolute value, is going to allow me to just write down my answer as a positive number. Okay, no negative answers at all. So I'm going to start with 1 minus 3. And that will be a negative 2, right? But since I have the absolute value, it will be 2. And then again, 1 minus 3, negative 2, but I just write the 2. Then 2 minus 3, and that will be a negative 1, but it's just a 1. 3 minus 3 is a 0. 4 minus 3 is 1. And again, 4 minus 3 is 1. And 6 minus 3 is 3. Okay, so those are the answers that I have on step 2, right? Okay, what do I do next? Well, we gotta do step 3, right? Because this one has 3 steps to do. In step 3, I have students who say, Miss, step 3 looks like a step 1. It kind of does, right? Because the process that we are gonna do is exactly what we did in step 1. The only difference is that now I'm not gonna use the first data. I'm gonna use the data from step 2. Okay, So all the numbers that I found here in step 2, I'm going to write them down. Okay, so I'm going to say what? 2 plus 2, all of my numbers, guys. I know what you're saying. 0 is not needed, miss. It has no value. I understand it has no value, but I've noticed students have the mistake that if they don't write down the 0 and then they count the data, they might not count the 0 as part of one of the data numbers, right? So that's the reason why I like writing down even the zeros. And now I'm going to divide this by, well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Do you see why the 0 is needed? Okay, very good. So what we're going to do next is we are going to add up all those numbers, okay? And then, of course, we will divide by 7. Okay, so we have 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3. Is that right? So we have 10 over 7, right? So what is 10 divided by 7? It is going to be a decimal, right? So we have 1.42, right? And the only answer, and of course it has more numbers after the decimal, right? After that 42, but that's more than enough. Look at the answer choices. And my answer will be, yes, letter D. That's my answer right there. Awesome.